Susie, very excited for today's podcast. We get to interview our dear friend and director of Reaching Higher for Youth, Steve Livingway. Steve, welcome.
I'm really
so
glad to be
excited,
here.
Steve, to have you here.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Troy.
So, Steve, you've served in the education system. You've been a principal for over 24 years, 25 years. We were counting this morning at breakfast, right? And just has a servant's heart. And I'm just so excited today because you have a story of reaching higher both professionally and personally in how reaching higher has impacted you. But let's start off on a little bit lighter note. So talk about that first time you met Susie and your why for bringing Reaching Higher into your school as the principal of Heartland Middle School.
Well, the funny thing is, when Susie came to see me, so I was the principal. I was principal for 20 years, and I think this was about year 14 or 15. Susie, I don't know if you know this, I had all my reasons to say no.
I know you did.
I'm too busy. I'm already doing other things. I don't have the money. I don't have the resources. And I was thinking about this. I still don't know why I said yes.
Because I looked at you and I said, you should you should be the teacher for Reaching Higher.
Something inspired me. It was you. It was maybe a greater force out there. Something said to me, say yes. And I said yes. And then you said, and I said, well, who am I going to get to teach this? And you said, why don't you teach it? And I said yes. And those yeses, except for getting married, those have probably been the two biggest yeses in my life. After getting married, was saying yes to doing it at my school and to teaching it.
Sitting with you and seeing your heart for the kids, seeing how passionate you were about empowerment and helping the kids to have a better life. Steve, I mean, you were the perfect person to teach it, and that's why I looked at you and said, you've got to teach this, because you have so much joy and so much love for the kids, and, you really care.
And Steve, to that point, because I know people are listening right now in regards to, oh boy, being a potential instructor, should I mentor, that type of thing. So explain a little bit what you discovered going back into the classroom in teaching Reaching Higher as an administrator, as someone who got into education.
Well, I fell in love with teaching again. There's things we do in education that actually don't always have everything to do with our core mission, which is helping kids, helping people be the best they can be. And when I got back into that role as a teacher in Reaching Higher, to me, this was the purest form of why I became an educator. I'm helping kids. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't all the other stuff that can come along with it. It was just pure. Go into a classroom, be yourself, help these kids. And what a blessing. I mean, that reawakened the passion. That's why I got in. That's why I was an educator. And I had lost a little bit of that as a principal because there's so much more than just that pure helping people in a classroom.
Yeah, so many administrative duties that you have to do, and you step back in and you remember how much you love just being with those kids and empowering them.
And how much I love kids.
I know you do.
And so, but that was, when I was teaching this class, I was meeting kids that I didn't get to know very well as the principal. The average kid in the middle.
Yeah.
Who flew under the radar. They weren't having a ton of problems. Their grades were okay. Mm-hmm. And you know what I realized? That was the bulk of my school. I was learning the kids at the top. I was learning about the kids that were really struggling. Most of my school were those kids in the middle that had so much potential, and I was barely getting to know them. And so that also was a real shot in the arm and really reinvigorated me as a principal. Mm.
Absolutely. Amazing. So as a principal, what did you do to convince your students to take Reaching Higher? Like, what did you say to them that got them into the classroom?
So the first time I made the mistake and I just sent home permission slips and I got a lot of calls, what is this? So I learned very quickly, Susie, that I needed to talk to the kids and explain, what is this class about? Why am I being invited? And I told them the truth. Your teachers see something in you. Whether you're struggling, whether you're high achieving, whether you're in the middle, they see you as a leader. There's something in there that is untapped with huge potential. You know, you are our next leaders, and your teachers have seen this in you because they picked you for this program. Once I explained that to them, you know, it got to the point where parents and students were asking me, begging me, how do I get on the list? How do I get in this class? Oh, this isn't a class only for students that are struggling or only for the gifted. This is for anybody. And how often do you get to be in a class with your principal?
I know. How
And-
lucky were they?
You know, and I told them, you're going to have the best time. This is going to be the best class you have ever had. I promise you. Say yes. And almost everyone said yes at that point, and I stopped getting very many questions about it because it had built up such a fine reputation. You know, people knew, like, how do I get into that? I want to be a part of this class. So it took care of itself after a while.
Yeah. And you planted those seeds of believing in those kids and helping them to have a fine reputation to live up to and be a leader. And so tell me, how did it impact your school overall?
It changed everything.
Did it really?
You know, and I was already doing a lot of good things for my school. I was a caring principal, and my staff we all cared about kids. So we were already doing a lot of things, peer mentoring and assemblies, and we did another program where we had a big day all together. It was called Challenge Day. We were doing all these
I
things.
remember you were doing that.
And I didn't stop any of those things, but what I found from Reaching Higher, it was the most life-changing. I think it's because it's 8 weeks, it's overtime, it's such a stronger connection. And unlike some of the other things we do, we were all in it together. So the principal, the mentors, the adults, the kids,
It was your community doing it.
we're doing it all together.
Yeah.
And that bond, you know, when I saw any of those kids again, it was never the same. And so it changed the whole culture of my school, and it just reinforced that we're all in this together. There's not the teachers over here and the students, and we're all in this together, and we're all doing our best to make this the best school we can. And you're a part of this, kids. You know, you're not just sitting over there in your desk. And it changed everything.
So let's transition a little bit to you as leading your school. You and we've talked a lot about our professional growth and our personal growth, right? From Reaching Higher,
Right.
on us personally and the benefits we get out of that. So can you share a little bit about how Reaching Higher helped you in leading your school, in leading your staff, your teachers, professionally, how it helped you lead students? Talk about that a little bit.
I'm almost embarrassed to say the first thing it did was I realized when people were coming to speak to me, I wasn't always listening.
Yeah.
I was doing my email on this corner and looking at my paperwork on that corner. So one of the first things I did, I made sure someone came in to see me, and this meant a parent, a student, a teacher. I would most of the time get out of my desk chair, come around, sit right next to them, make eye contact, and make sure that they knew I was truly listening and they had my 100% attention for that time.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think I was worst with my teachers. They would come in and I would multitask. Well, I thought it was. You can't really give anything 100% attention except for one thing or one
True.
person at a time.
It's really called task switching, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Not multitasking.
So, you know, and I thought to myself, this could be the most important thing to them that they're coming in to see me about. I better treat this as important. I don't care if I've heard this 100 times. You know, for Jimmy coming in to see me, this might be he might have worked up his nerve all day or all week to come in and see the principal. So that was one thing. The second thing I did was, you know, one of the things we teach in Reaching Higher is be the change. If you want it that way, you make it that way. If you want it to be fun, make it fun. So I think I also took that to heart and realized I needed to lead by example more. I mean, I'd already believed that, but it just reinforced a core value for me that I can't expect everyone else to do something that I'm not doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you saw that impact in your staff, and you saw that impact in your school.
You know, the staff got behind reaching higher more than I had seen anything else as well. I think it was because they got to select the kids. So I started seeing them come to graduation, and it just brought everyone together. You know, like I said, you make that connection. We're all in this together, and it was, so you got your principal, your counselors part of this program, your teachers, the kids,
Your parents?
and the parents. And so it's really the kind of that model of it takes a village. I know it's a cliche, but
I love that, don't you?
everybody's coming together just to help this group of kids be the best they can be. And that, you know, it's simple but powerful.
Yeah.
You know, kids don't feel that way. They don't feel like the whole community's got their back.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays, not all the time. And so this was everyone coming together just for me. You know, you could see the kids. It's a very special thing.
Yeah, to have everybody come together like that. And Steve, I love what you said about listening, because listening is the highest form of love. And so many times in the world, we don't listen. But the fact that you came around and you gave them your full attention, that's powerful. That's powerful.
Thank you.
You're
Yes.
an amazing leader.
Yes, he is.
Well, I'm kind of ashamed embarrassed that I wasn't doing that already. It took me a long time, but thank you for that compliment. Thank you.
Well, it's those tools we live in. We learn in reaching higher.
Yeah.
That change our life not only as a principal and in the classroom, but also at home. So tell me how does this affect? I know myself. I'm always a better person when I walk out of a reaching higher class. How has it affected you personally and your family?
I'm not overstating this. The absolute truth is it saved my marriage. I was feeling kind of didn't know what to do, right? And I knew my job took a lot out of me, and I was waiting for other people in my life to make changes.
Yeah.
If my wife could do this, I could be happy. If my sons would do this, I could be happy. If my teachers would do this, I could be happy. And it's one of our core messages, and it took a while to sink into me. You know what? Maybe I need to start thinking about making some changes.
Yeah, be the change.
Yeah, and you know what? But the thing is, and I tell this to the kids, it's another simple but powerful idea, right? So the first step is realizing you want to make some changes. Now it's hard because I had, 45, 50 years of some bad habits that I wanted to change. But I did it. My son actually just gave me a huge compliment. I was telling him some of the regrets I had and wish I could do this different or better. He said, "Dad, do you know how few people actually, especially adults, because we're entrenched, see something and they want to change it and they actually do it about themselves?" And so, I mean, my son, Danny, told that to me, and that was a real, I've been holding on to that, Maybe I wasn't so bad because I take some pride in that, I guess, that I was able to see some changes. I don't think my wife thought I would be able to make the changes. It took some convincing. But we are so much happier. We talk more. I listen more. I had this weird idea about what the husband should be. And it wasn't, I don't want to make it sound like it was this horrible thing, but I changed into, I can't judge people by what I want, right? I've got to be the best I can be. I've got to listen to them. If I want to change in my life, that's up to me. And it sounds simple now, but that was a big mindset shift for me.
It takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable and to have the willingness to change. It's easy to point a finger at somebody else.
Yeah, it is easier.
There's always three pointing back at you, and that's, I always thought from the beginning when I first met you that you were a huge man with a huge heart. And, it's easy to be out in the world and do all the things we love to do, but to come home and be what really is meant for us to be and do is beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I would just say, too, I've had the privilege to work with your son, Danny, and been in a classroom with him. And he actually took the adult class, and he's inspired by you. And in my mind, a lot of times when we talk to our sons, you get a real picture of who Dad is. And is he a leader? And is he someone that's admired? And I would just tell you, man, unequivocally, you've inspired your son. And
Thank you.
obviously inspired him to the point where he's here with Reaching Higher and serving through Reaching Higher, too. So I don't think you can have a better compliment than that.
I appreciate you saying that, but he's actually like my wife. She's the angel. she's the bottomless pit of caring, but thank you.
You're welcome. So, Steve, you're the director of youth. And we've launched, since COVID happened, we've kicked off really intentionally serving adults and have an adult virtual class. So as you just shared all of that, why should adults take the class? Why should adults take Reaching Higher?
Same reason the kids should take it. I mean, everyone deserves this opportunity. And I think in some ways adults can get more out of this because we have been entrenched in our habits and our way of thinking for so long. But then when you really stop to examine it, there's areas of your life where it's maybe not working that well. Or there's areas that are working great, but they could still be better.
Absolutely.
You know, my wife and I always adored each other. There was always a strong bond of love. But it was improved so much more when I decided to look at myself and see what can I do to make this better? Not her. What can I do to make this better? And I think that's what adults get out of it. They're going to be a better parent, a better employee, a better boss, a better brother, a better person, because how often does anyone get the chance to slow down and really do some deep thinking with another group that all has their back and say, what is it I really want? What do I really want? Not what am I doing every day? What does I really want out of life, and how am I going to get there, and what's holding me back? And most of the time you're going to find out it's something within yourself that's actually holding you back. And how am I going to work on that? We don't do that very often.
Right.
I mean, you get so busy. I mean, this is a gift. To actually get the chance to do that with a group of people that have your back and care and make it safe. I mean, I wish everyone had this opportunity. It's just a gift.
It's an awakening. It awakens you to help you to live your very best life. You know, we want it for everyone. I always said you could teach somebody that was 5 and you could teach someone that was 105. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it's it's so funny you say that, because I'll have a group and I'll have a mentor who's 80
Yeah.
and I'll have a 12-year-old. And you know what? They're the same.
Yeah.
And so am I. We all have the same. My mom used to call this a perfect human being. We've all got these fears that we're working on or insecurities that we're working on. But we all want the same thing. We want to be loved, accepted, have a purpose, be happy. You know, I haven't seen that change in my 32 years in education and now another 5 years with Reaching Higher. People all want the same thing. I don't care how old you are.
Yeah. Steve, you really, when you said stop to examine it, and you were meaning your life in that answer, and I had the opportunity in one of the blogs that I wrote, researched a little bit about Ben Franklin. And everyone looks right. I mean, one of the, most famous people of all time in the world. And what he did every day was reflect. Stop, reflect, and actually examine, did I demonstrate this virtue today? Not what did I do? And so what you just reminded people of, this is something that just allows someone to go reflect on themselves and say, man, how do I take the next step? So I think that's very profound that you said that.
Yeah, I agree.
Sometimes it's the little things that make the biggest difference.
Totally.
Yeah, so powerful. So, why did you say yes to becoming the new lead for Reaching Higher for Life?
I think it's the same
So
reason
exciting.
I became a principal. So I said yes to become the director of Reaching Higher for Youth. So when I was a teacher, I had my 30 students or maybe 100 a year. And, you know, I was very thankful to be able to impact their lives the best that I could. But when I thought about becoming a principal, I realized now I got 900 students a year, and I'm helping to shape the teachers that are teaching these students. I'm helping to hire, you know, I'm picking these people. And same with being the director of Reaching Higher for Youth. And by the way, I still go in and teach right now. I'm just finishing up
know.
a class. So this is how I keep that love of that going in and that
Yeah.
pure education, but also I get the opportunity. I'm grateful. I keep telling Troy, I get to do this.
I know.
So I get to go and share with other principals and tell them, this is what I did for my school. This is what I did for my kids. This is what I did for my life. And there's reasons to say no out in the world to everything right now, you know, because things are so hard. But man, there's a million reasons to say yes to this. And let me show you the way to say yes. And you will never regret it, because you will see what this is going to do for your school, for your kids, for you, for your faculty. So, I mean, what greater job could I have than this? Susie knows, this was my dream. When I was a principal, I would talk about, I kept telling you, when I retire, I want Reaching Higher to be my life. You know, and I had no idea if it would work out this way, but, you know, thank God it did.
It did.
And how lucky we are to have you. I can feel the passion pouring out on this table as we're
It's either
talking.
passion or sweat. It's one of the two.
No, it's passion. It's your passion for making a difference in this world, Steve. So I know you love your favorite thing and your love is to be in the classroom and to be with those kids. I've seen you, the magic that happens. Can you tell me, I mean, you've been in so many classrooms and orchestrated so many magical moments. What is a moment that you could say, wow, I'll never forget that?
I have many of them, but the first one that came to mind was a student I had, was in alternative high school. Actually, Troy, I think, was visiting that day.
Mm-hmm.
He was a guest speaker. It wasn't planned that way, but these were high school students, and the student was sharing a time in her life when she had felt special. Now, we start out, this is kind of an easy start. Like, we think this will be an easy thing for kids to share. Well, she didn't have one. She didn't have one, and she was kind of speechless. And then she said, you know, the only time I remember feeling special was last week when you told me you thought I could be a really good counselor.
Wow.
Remember that.
And I started crying, which I'm to do now.
I know, I can see the tears
And
coming here as I'm just crying myself.
Well, to think that you could be 18, 19 and never have had a time in your life where you felt special until you had this class. And I got up and I asked her if I could give her a hug. And man, she didn't want to let go.
I bet.
And she was sobbing and I was crying, and the whole class was just holding this special moment. Now, part of me feels sad that she had to wait 18, 17 years for this moment in her life to feel special, but so grateful that we could, and this was just like an offhand comment from me, but for her, I don't think she had ever felt that way in her life before. So it's sad, but so happy she had the opportunity. I know we changed her life. That was week 2, Susie.
I know, I just remember.
That was week 2.
I know, and it's like, you know what? You changed her life because you saw her. She probably had never been seen before in her life or even felt the love that you had there. And you know, that's what we want to do. We want to change and have every child leave our classroom feeling like they're important and they're special. Yeah. And that's what you do to those students, you know.
What you just
I'm so
said,
lucky.
it was in our mission as a school. We redid this. And, you know, school violence was becoming more, and our mission was, of course, was our academics, but right in our mission was, we don't want any student to leave this school without at least having one, hopefully more, but one adult that they trust, that they're connected to, that
Yeah.
they can go to. To me, that's how you fight the violence going on. And if we're all connected, and if I knew all my students felt loved and connected, I could go home and sleep pretty well at night. You know, some of them were still struggling in science and math, but I knew they felt loved, connected, cared about. I felt I had done my job that day as a principal, if I really knew that.
That's so magical because, you know, love is so powerful and their grades just go up when they're in their
Yeah,
class.
that's
I know, that's
That's
like,
the good
that's
benefit.
The answer,
Their
right?
grades go up, their attendance gets better, their behavior gets better. Because most of the time in schools, we treat the symptoms. Oh, you're not doing your homework, go over here and go into detention. Oh, you acted up, you're suspended, here's your consequence. Very rarely, before reaching higher, was I really looking at the reasons. Well, if you could change a student's mindset
Yeah.
to where they really believe, you know what? It's worth me working hard in math because I can do this.
There you go.
It's worth me showing up in school because this will lead to the goals that I want in my life. Now, all of a sudden, you're not trying to treat all these symptoms out there. You're really getting into the heart of, because until that student really knows that he or she is in charge of their life and they can make a difference, that's not everything else you do is going to have a small impact.
Yep.
So that mindset shift.
Mindset. Huge. So what I want to ask you is, we and I have talked about unleashing reaching higher on the world. Best kept secret in southeastern Michigan, and we want to stop that. So I want you to pause for a second, practice the reflection. What would be the impact on our nation, on our state, if reaching higher was in every school? Think about that. Just reflect on that for a second, Steve. What does your heart say when you hear that? What do you see that impact being?
Well, imagine if everyone had the confidence to go after what they wanted in their life and the tools to do it. You know, number one thing I think, Troy, would be a much safer place for people just to be who they are and not worrying about putting on this act all the time and being fake and I got to be this way or that way. So I think number one, the stress we're feeling would come down quite a few notches.
Yeah.
And I think the schools would feel this bond of coming together like I felt at my school. And as you know, it's a tough place in the world right now, right?
It is horrible.
And if we don't have each other, who do we have? And so that is a really important thing to have at your school. So I would say this, if you're out there and you're on the fence, say yes. I had a million reasons to say no to Susie, but they all went out the window when I actually stopped to listen to what she was saying. It's like, how can you say no to helping kids, to helping adults, to helping people? Why would I be an educator if I didn't want to do that?
You were the perfect person to do this. I'm so proud to have you, Steve.
Thank you, Susie.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve, thank you. I'm so honored to work with you as fellow directors, and this podcast was amazing, and you're amazing. So thank you for being here
Thanks
today.
for having me.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Susie.
Our goal is to bring that love to every school.
Yeah, they deserve it.
That's what the parents always say at graduation. Every school should have this.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.